What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to the greatest combat sports and culture show in the entire universe, the Fight Podcast. It is Tuesday. If you look directly next to me, I got the Guru next to me, so you know what time it is. That means it is the Guru's Corner. This week in boxing, I am joined by my brother from another, B-Can the Guru. Guru, what it do, man?
Hey man, appreciate you having me back this week. A little bit under the weather, but we gonna make it do what it do. It is the Guru. Put some respect on my name, and we got a lot to talk about. Canelo GGG amongst other things. So let's get into it, my guy.
Let's jump into it. Everybody who's watching live right now, or no one's watching live right now, we're recording this. All right. But when you're watching this, make sure you can listen to the Fight Podcast everywhere podcasting is available. Apple, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Stitcher. Also, do us a favor and like, share, and subscribe to this video. It really makes a difference. It really helps us. We're just about to cross over that 1,000 subscriber mark. It means a lot to us. Appreciate y'all. All right. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. Yo, this past weekend, it was a fight that a lot of us have waited for. It is a fight that we have waited for 4 long years. It is a trilogy. It's finally here. Canelo GGG happened, and Canelo Alvarez did what I think a lot of people expected, won via unanimous decision. The scorecards went as follows: 116, 112, 115, 113 by two other judges. So I'll be very honest with you. And B, before I even let you go, I have to get this off my chest. All right. I thought this scorecards were a little bit atrocious when you look at it. I don't think there's any way, shape, or form that this fight was a one-round fight at all. If you really think about it, with the scorecards of 115, 113, we all look at it and say Canelo won the last round. If Canelo did not win that last round, you mean to tell me that fight that we watched on Saturday was a draw? I'm sorry, it wasn't. I'll be very honest with you. My personal scorecard for that fight card was 118, 110. Yes, that means I only was able to give Triple G 2, and I think I was being generous even with that itself. But before we even get into the scoring and everything, I do have to ask you, because a lot of people were kind of shitting on this fight, saying that it wasn't a good fight, saying that one fighter is in the winter, the other one is in their autumn, just totally disparaging both athletes. In your opinion, was this a shit fight?
I don't necessarily think it was a shit fight, but I'm with the people in saying it wasn't necessarily a good fight. I think we expected more in terms of Canelo separating himself from Triple G. I think we saw Canelo get tired down the stretch. And if you rewatch those rounds, especially down the stretch, the second half of the fight where Triple G seemed to pick up his activity a little bit more, Triple G led the dance. Canelo would punch when Triple G punched. He wouldn't necessarily lead the dance on his own. And in that, not necessarily pushing for the knockout or the finish, I don't know if it was stamina, I don't necessarily know if it was the hand injury, but I think people were a bit underwhelmed. They wanted to see a little bit more. And there were no knockouts in the card, so no one necessarily ever got their fix. So I think you end up with angry customers who paid for something that they didn't necessarily get. And this is what it looks like. When you are one of the big dogs in boxing, you're raking in these huge paydays. Canelo, I think he made $40 million for this fight. Triple G made a guaranteed $25 million. People expect more. And I think that the reaction is justified.
Wow. Look, I hear you, and I do hear what people are saying, but I think, and I'm going to be that guy. And I'm sorry to be that guy. I'm going to say it. I am tired of these casuals. I'm sorry. If we look at it, how can we not take certain things into account? The broken hand, a fighter who doesn't want to get finished, isn't going to get finished. You have somebody who's going out here also, and people were talking about the ending. Oh, Canelo gassed, Canelo did this, Canelo did that. We didn't talk about the first 8 rounds where he had his foot on the gas and he was throwing bombs, which takes a lot of energy out. He was trying to entertain the fans. And if we're looking at Twitter, the Twitterverse, if we're looking at that throughout the fight, only thing you saw was, oh my God, this is a masterclass. Oh my God, he looks fantastic. Oh my God, this and this and this and that. I don't understand where the disconnect comes. I look at it, these are professional athletes at the highest level. If you look at the percentages at the highest levels, guys don't get knocked out that often at the highest levels. We shouldn't expect that. Now, granted, yes, Canelo said he's going to go out there and try to knock this guy out. Keyword on try. It blows my mind when I hear people, especially journalists who are paid to do this, who are going out there and you've never been punched in your face a day in your life, but you have the audacity to sit there and say that these guys aren't putting on a show. Look, I will say this. I don't know what took, Triple G so long to get started. I think the big reason that it did take him so long to get started is because Canelo was on his shit at the beginning of the fight. And he, in everything that Triple G wanted to do, Canelo had an answer for it. He did slow down a little bit, and that gave Triple G the breathing room to win 2 rounds. Might I add you, just 2 rounds. That, I mean, if you look across the board, most people are saying it was only 2 rounds tops. I generally don't understand these scorecards. 115, 113. The commentators are talking shit about Adelaide Bird. I don't know how I feel about these white dudes going up there on national television or world television shitting on this black woman. But I guess if anyone has the the ability to get shit on is Adelaide Bird, I get it. I totally get it. But look, and I'm about to join them. Was Adelaide Bird and her sister here with this card? 115, 113. What fight were you watching? I'm sorry. I think the narrative of the fight, there are people saying that how you go from a masterclass to it was a dud, I don't understand. Back and forth. Look, this fight was a good fight. It was an entertaining fight. Was it the result that we would have wanted? Remember, I said I thought Canelo was going to knock him out in the 8th round. I said between 8, 9, or 10, I think Canelo's going to get him. Unfortunately, that's when his ass ended up slowing down. So I was wrong on that regard. But regardless, 118, 110, that was my score. What was your score?
I would have given like 2 or 3 rounds. I didn't necessarily see 4 rounds. I saw maybe 3 rounds. So what do you get for
3 rounds? That does what? 117, 111?
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's
fair too.
And to speak on that, the judges, Adelaide Bird was not there. These judges were Dave Moretti, Steve Weisfield, and David Sutherland. I'm not as familiar with David Sutherland, but Dave Moretti and Steve Weisfield are 2 of the top judges in the sport of boxing. You'll see them on a lot of top boxing cards. They are traditionally good judges. I can't speak for the sport of boxing. I can't speak for the scoring in boxing. I just know that shit happens. These guys had an off night. Now, as we transition to more of our thoughts on judging in boxing, my thought is that boxing and MMA always have these widespread decisions. MMA it's a little bit easier because you have just less rounds. So it's always going to be a little bit less of a debacle when we're talking about 3 or 5 rounds compared to 12 round fights. You can just make mistakes a lot more when it happens 12 times as opposed to 5. Right. I think the solution, and we've spoken about this many times before, I think the best solution would be 5 judges, unanimous round scoring. It's like I think that's an amazing concept. I think that's you were the first one to introduce that concept to me, but 5 judges. And whatever the unanimous decision is, that should be the fighter that's given that round. And it should only be one score or one decision for every single round. So it's a bit more difficult to do that when you start talking about things like 10-8 rounds. Yeah. And so like that does get a bit more shady, but I think that's a huge step in the right direction. Right now, just having blind scoring, and I think there are certain states where you have scoring that's unveiled. I forgot what state it was. I only saw it in a fight once where you had scoring unveiled every 3 rounds. I'm not necessarily sure I like that either, but at least it at least gives you more of an idea of what's going on in the fight. Absolutely. What judges are doing where these judges are going wrong. It takes away the end of the fight, and I think that is part of the allure of combat sports, waiting for that score at the end. But it takes away from that where you consistently have these bad decisions. Now, long term, maybe it all shakes out because Canelo's been on the better end on a lot of these bad decisions. And today, he gets a unanimous decision. He gets a unanimous decision. Which he deserved. Which he deserved, but he seemed to be on the wrong end on some of that scoring. So long term, it always shakes out. One of the things my manager told me, hey, for those who don't know, I'm a sales manager. And so my manager told me that, hey, short term, sales is the most unfair career. But long term, it's one of the most fair careers that you can find. Because the people who find a way, who keep fighting are always going to find ways to win long term, even though short term it may seem unfair. And similarly, I think a lot of the same things about boxing. short term, especially with judging, it may seem very unfair. But the guys who fight through, that keep showing up in high level fights, that find ways put your opponent down. You don't want to go to the scorecards. Those are going to be the guys that win. Floyd was not always given great judging. He was on the wrong end of a scorecard against Canelo Alvarez, but he still won the fight. He still won the fight, and I'm not necessarily saying that's always going to be the case. There are going to be fighters that take losses, but the fighters who continue to show up, who continue to put 110% effort, and continue to find ways to dedicate themselves in the face of adversity, all of that is going to shake out in the end. That's my belief. But it's unfair, and it changes careers, it changes lives, and it's just something. It's a piece of the sport at this point. I don't necessarily know if we're ever going to be able to watch the stain.
The problem with it is, and the biggest issue is, that the commissions are the ones that assign the judges. These people end up being elected officials that are only picking up this gig for the job. They're not like, they take a little bullshit class and they don't generally care about the sport. A lot of them. People go in there. Now, granted, we had Dave Moretti in there. We had people that have done this for a while. But a lot of these people have never experienced the sport. They've never trained the sport. And at the end of the day, they don't give a damn about the sport. I think that is the issue. The fact that the commissions have the opportunity to run this and do it in the way that they do and assign the judges, I think is the biggest issue, overall. How does that change? I don't know if it does. I don't know if it can. I hope that we can get better individuals, former athletes, or should I say former fighters, who understand what they're watching, out there doing it, whatever the case may be, adding judges. Something has to be done in all combat sports, whether it be, boxing, MMA, kickboxing. The judging has been consistently atrocious. Because when you look at, for instance, even in MMA and stuff like that, and in boxing, the big key word that people do not discuss is impact. Impact trumps everything, okay, in combat sports. So whether it be the impact of my shots that I'm hitting you with, or let's say if it is MMA, and the impact of me taking you down, and the aggression and the impact in which I did that I'm supposed to get more points for. The rule book for MMA and in boxing is not that long. It might take you 10 minutes to read all of it. The fact that I know this and some of these judges seem like they don't is a damn shame. I think it's a travesty. I think it makes the sport look bad, and it makes it look worse in the eyes of those casuals that I spoke about even earlier. So I think it's a real issue in the sport. But what I want to transition to next, before I transition.
I want to say one thing.
Yeah, please.
I think in any scenario, nobody's going to be perfect. People are not perfect. People are wrong in different scenarios every day. What do? You apologize. And part of that apology that makes it a little bit better is taking accountability. And so one of the sports that I think is headed in the right direction of just, hey, we made a mistake here, because that's part of judging. You're going to make mistakes, is the NBA. The NBA has a 2-minute report after every game where they acknowledge the wrong calls that were made in those last 2 minutes. I think some more transparency.
Now, are they going to have that same? Are they going to have that same report on only finding this racist dude for like a year and $10 million, finding a billionaire $10 million? Did they get a report for that?
That I cannot speak to. I do not agree with that. I do not agree with that. Calvin Ridley got suspended more than a year in the NFL for betting like $1,500. I'm not about to derail a conversation there, but I do think the 2-minute report is a step in the right direction, and something along those lines could help in terms of accountability when it comes to boxing. And some of those rematches, maybe rematches that need to get made if these rounds were scored based on XYZ. Upon rewatch, we saw XYZ. This round should have been awarded to Triple G. This round should have been awarded to Canelo. It can give some transparency and accountability on behalf of the judges. Hey, we're human. We make mistakes. This is what it should have been. If you guys want to rematch, go ahead.
You know what I think they should do? I love what you're saying. I like that too. In reality, you know what they should do? Judges who judge the fights should be required to go to the presser afterwards, and they should be required to speak to the media afterwards. That's what they hold their asses to the fire. It should be a requirement for judges to do that. It should be. And that's my POV. But I think that in itself, putting their butts on the fire in front of the firing squad, I think will make people do a better job.
I think you open yourselves to way too much liability. So just because a judge is good at judging doesn't mean they're good at public speaking. And so if you put someone
Fighters aren't good at public speaking.
After every single fight in front of the cameras, people are always going to find something wrong with what they're saying. And I think that state commission starts to open themselves up to tons of liability every single fight. I don't necessarily think that's realistic.
Nah, man. Look,
now
these bureaucrats have gone out here and fucked up the lives of hundreds, thousands of athletes with no recourse. They sit there, piss away people's win money for these shit decisions. And they go back and forth and they do this and they have zero accountability. Zero. I do not give a damn if they're not great public speakers. We literally interview fighters after they got knocked out, where they don't know where they are. You talk to them dudes 2 days later, they don't remember none of that shit. But we sit there and we dissect every little thing that they say. We should do that with every single person that's involved. If you were involved in that decision, especially if it's a shit decision, sit your ass up here and answer these questions. Let me know why you did this. There's only one boxing judge that I can recall in the last couple of years that made a bad decision, and I can remember them. I can't remember the exact fight, but it was like a year ago. And I remember a judge going out there and going on Twitter and saying, yeah, I fucked up. That was terrible. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. I need more of that from boxing. But these bureaucrats are fucking up the sport that I love. I hate it. It's such a pain in the ass because they don't know what the fuck they're watching. All right. Just who? I don't know who's texting me. I don't even know whose number that was. All right. Moving right along. Anything else you want to say about the judging?
No, I'm good.
They suck. That's what we say. All right. Moving right along. Look, I want to stay with Canelo and Triple G for a hot second because people are talking about what's next. In terms of Triple G, I'll be honest with you, bro, it's been a good run. I think it should be it for you, personally. You're not winning championships anywhere. It's not going to happen. But there are multiple options out there for Canelo Alvarez. David Benavidez is calling him out. He's talking about going back up there and fighting Dimitri Bivol. He's going back and forth, doing all kinds of different things. In your mind, when we look at Canelo Alvarez, what should be next for Canelo?
Well, number one, I am not quite sure I'm with you on Triple G. I think there's tons of opportunities for him at 160. I don't think there's a place for him at 168.
160?
I think he was a bit too small for this division. It's his first fight at 168. That's a lot to ask of him fighting Canelo Alvarez. I do think there are some opportunities for him to compete, if anything, and definitely make some huge paydays at 160, especially against the likes of guys like Jamal Charlo. So I think, and that's the first name that comes to mind. I'm sure there are some other ones as well. Jaime Munguia against Triple G. That's another name out there.
That'd be a fun one.
I think there are some opportunities for him at 160. But in terms of Canelo, first, get surgery, heal up. He said after the fight, he said he cannot hold a glass with his left hand, and this man is competing in a elite level boxing match. It's amazing fighting through that level of pain, but he needs to heal up. He wants to come back against Dimitri Bivol at 168. Not necessarily sure that's the best comeback fight. I'm not necessarily sure he wins that fight. So then you start to look at, well, what can he do when he has all of the belts at 168 and he wants to go after guys with belts? Well, he at least has to go after someone who has a reputation. These guys at 168, they have to fight each other. Caleb Plant, David Benavidez, they have to make some of these fights start to happen, because right now he's cleaned out that 168 division of all the real relevant names. So guys are going to have to come up. So you look at names like Demetrius Andrade. He might finally have to make that fight, but no one really wants to see that. There's no demand because of the way Andrade fights. So you look at some of these guys.
Been calling for that fight for years.
You look at guys at 160. I think Jamal Charlo, maybe that's a decent fight. Janibek, maybe he wins a few reasonable fights, and by the time Canelo gets back, he's a little bit more of a player. Jaime Munguia, that fight might be there. He doesn't necessarily want to fight Mexicans because none of them are super relevant right now. So, maybe if he gets a few more fights under his belt. But Canelo has cleaned out between 160 and 168, a lot of those relevant names. There's only a few left that you can really look to outside of Dimitri Bivol. So all in all, Dimitri Bivol might be the best relevant fight for him when he comes back, but we don't know how long he's going to be out. We don't know what the surgery is going to look like. So the boxing landscape changes every single day, week, and month as people win and lose fights. Boxing fans are very much, what have you done for me lately? So things are going to change. But when Canelo comes back, Dimitri Bivol might be the most relevant fight that he's going to get up for and that the people are going to pay for.
Yeah, man. No, totally agree. I totally agree. And it's really interesting when you talk about it's funny seeing people, man, don't appreciate greatness. When greatness is in front of them, they just want to nitpick and hate because they look at LeBron. LeBron could be 50 years old, dropping 60 points a game. They'd still figure out Skip Bayless would be saying he's the worst player in the league. You know, like you got this dude out here, Canelo Alvarez, that has been more active than anybody in boxing, has taken more risks than anybody in boxing consistently for years. I mean, just look at the difference between Triple G and Canelo since they last fought. Canelo literally had double the fights that Triple G. And here's the thing. Everybody that Canelo fought was a champion, a current champion and belt holder. Nobody that Triple G fought, aside from Canelo, was a champion or belt holder. So when you're looking at these type of things and these individuals, I mean, the hate that these guys are getting, people, Canelo is not going to be here that much longer. Appreciate greatness. We're looking at the greatest Mexican fighter of all time. Miss me with that Julio Cesar Chavez shit, okay? His first 60 wins were against cab drivers. I'm sorry. It is what it is. Canelo is the best. Appreciate that.
So I'll say this, and I can understand your gripes with the criticism of a guy like Canelo, but any fighter in the sport, whether they know it or not, that criticism is the same criticism that they strive for because that's always going to come with being number one. Once you become number one, there's a target on your back, and people want to start to analyze your weaknesses.
But I'm not talking about people who are. I'm like the casual fan. I expect the casual fan to sit there and say things because they don't understand what they're watching, and I understand that. Boxing is a sport that people like. I've always laughed, right? When people are trying to say, "Oh, I know boxing," I'm like, "How much have you watched?" "Oh, I watched like a fight a year." Bro, you don't know boxing. You just are looking for people to punch each other in the face. I get it. It's fun. Cool. Watch it. Like I casual fans help grow the sport. I appreciate that to happening. You know what I'm saying? But when we look at it and we're having somebody going out there, I'm talking about paid journalists that are supposed to be analysts in this game, not being objective and talking shit and criticizing just for clickbaits. Fam, you suck. I'm sorry. Like, to me, that shit's unacceptable. But, and I think that's where I get it. My beef is more with these journalists that are running their fucking mouths when at the end of the day, like, what are we talking about? He beat everybody that he was supposed to beat and put in front of him, and we're just burying him because it wasn't a performance that you wanted against a veteran who doesn't want to get knocked out. I'm sorry. I don't understand why this is such a hard concept for people to understand. I don't give a damn if you're in there, but if you are a veteran that has been in the game for an extremely long time, you know how not to get finished. Triple G understands, and he knows how to put himself in positions to not get himself finished. The only time Triple G actually even tried to put himself in the fire was in that 9th round. Come on.
Okay. But where is Triple G weak?
His body. That's on Canelo.
Did we see a sustained attack to the body, understanding that Triple G is weak to the body?
But now that I put on his coaching staff. I put that on Eddie Reynoso, who I think is a fantastic trainer. His people in the corner are supposed to sit there and say, "Hey, man, you're headhunting. Bring it down. He can be hurt to the body." That's game planning. That's his team. Now, Canelo's smart enough. He should have figured that shit out on his own as well. I understand that completely. I'm not giving him a pass for that. But I'm saying in the heat of battle, when he's already in the mindset that I'm going to try to knock this dude out, he's thinking I'm going to hit him in the face. He's emotional. He's going into it in that way. He also has a broken hand that I feel like I don't understand why nobody's still talking about.
I don't think it's broken.
It's hurt.
It's
hurt
a
hand.
wrist.
Try to hit.
It's a wrist injury.
Which is even worse. I don't know if you've ever tried to punch somebody with a hurt wrist. It don't work for you. But hey, anything else you want to say about this one? And I know I have my little soliloquy.
Nope, I'm good.
All right, well, let's move on to this because I want to talk about this before we get out of here. There are some great things and some amazing young fighters in the world of boxing right now, and it's always funny because you hear people boxing is dead, this and that. Yo, people, boxing is better than it has been in an extremely long time. There are amazing fighters from 115 pounds all the way to heavyweight, and there's multiple in these weight classes. Fantastic. ESPN just dropped their ESPN top 25 under 25. I'm gonna go ahead and for you guys read you. Let's just go ahead the top 5 real quick. Let me pull this up for you. Let's do top 10. It's on ESPN. Boom, boom, boom. Give me 1 second. Here.
I got it. I got it up. You ready?
I got it. Yeah, I got it pulled up. Number 1, we have Devin Haney. Number 2, Jesse Bam Rodriguez. Number 3, we have Virgil Ortiz. 4, Junto Nakatani. Number 5, Ryan Garcia. Number 6, Sebastian Fundora. Number 7, David Morrell. 8, Jared Anderson. 9, Xander Zayas. And 10, we had coming in at Brandon Lee. Guru, is that an acceptable top 10 for you?
Yeah, I think it is. I think number 1, it's going to be a bit difficult for me to be critical of a list where a lot of these guys haven't really been tested in a way where we can accurately rank them. So My thing is, did they make the list or not? Me, I'm very, very satisfied with this list. You got to give Haney the number 1 spot. He's currently the undisputed champ, although he didn't necessarily fight the toughest competition to get to that rank. He is undisputed. He's well deserving of that number 1 rank.
Absolutely.
You got Bam at number 2. Shit.
And I love that. I love Bam at number 2.
And we didn't talk about Bam's fight on Saturday. He had a tough fight. Wasn't the amazing Bam that we're used to seeing, but we know he didn't necessarily want to take this fight. Good opportunity. Garcia spent a lot of his time out here with Anthony Joshua. So the circumstances were a lot different for this fight. I'm willing to give him a pass there.
Garcia's tough, by the way. Garcia was very tough.
He didn't get discouraged at all. He still won the fight despite having a point taken away. He deserves that spot. Virgil, like a lot of the fighters you would want to see, they're there. They made the list. Even if they're not in the top 10, they made. Even guys like Mauricio Lara, he's really fun to watch fight. He's at number 11. Keyshawn Davis, number 12.
Love that.
You know, Isak Cruz, another name on there that I like. Some of these names, I'm like, hey, I gotta sit down and watch some of these guys.
Michel Rivera, I love Michel Rivera, friend of the show.
Yeah, they put some ladies on here. I think they did a really good job with that as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun on this list. We have a lot to look forward to in this sport of boxing, and I am very, very satisfied with the work ESPN did in this list. And I'd love to see the future of some of these rising stars.
Oh, dude, I really like, and I'm usually hypercritical on some of ESPN's lists, but this one specifically, fantastic. It's a great list. I don't have any gripes with any of them. The ones that I think that I was happiest to see on here, obviously, you know, Devin Haney, Jared Anderson. One of my favorites right now, Xander Zayas. Come on, man. You know I'm begging for a dope ass Puerto Rican. And so between him and Michel Rodriguez, you know I love both of those guys.
Michel Rivera.
Brandon, what was that?
Michel Rivera.
I said Rodriguez. My bad. I was reading Rodriguez over here. Brandon Lee. Brandon Lee probably would be higher on the list if he didn't get rocked and dropped in his last fight, but he's really good. Obviously, Keyshawn Davis, come on. You can't be mad at him. He is a killer. So many of these guys, but this is a solid list. Isak Cruz is on here as well. I cannot – but look at this. We're literally – when's the last time we can sit here and literally rip off 20 different fighters, right? And we're not even talking about – we're talking about under 25. There's so many more, because think about it. Jaron Ennis isn't on this list because he is 25. Otherwise, he would be my number one on this list if it wasn't. I'm just saying, even regardless on Devin Haney, I'm talking about the eyeball test. Jaron Ennis for me. You know what I'm saying? But not mad at this list at all. It's a solid fucking list. Boxing people, I'm telling you guys, boxing is a fantastic place. If you want to get into boxing, not only do you have these amazing up and coming fighters right now, man, look, it might not be my cup of tea, but the social media influencer boxing that's happening right now, there's a lane for it. It's fun. Boxing right now is fun. Enjoy it, man. Enjoy it. I don't know how much longer it's gonna last, because the moment that Anderson starches fucking Jake Paul, the influencer shit might be done. But at this present moment in time, boxing is very fun. From heavyweight down to these little dudes, it's pretty special.
I would agree.
All right, beautiful, man. All right, well, check it out. I think we hit everything we had to hit today.
Yeah, we got 30 minutes.
30 minutes, right at it, man. We'll check it out. B-Cam, my brother, the Guru, thank you so much for joining me. You guys know this has been episode 6 of Guru's Corner, episode 3, like 90-something of the Fight Podcast, if we really get technical. But, it's amazing. We'll be back very soon. Also, remember, listen to the Fight Podcast everywhere podcasting is available. Apple, Google Play, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher. Check us out there. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm telling you, we're about to pass that 1,000 subscriber mark. Help us get to 1,000 people. We're right there. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers. It means a lot to us. Check us out there. Also, support the show. Grab some merch. We have fantastic merch. Etsy.com/shop/thefightpodshop. We have champion brand hoodies and t-shirts. Awesome mugs. Look, they got one right here. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that beautiful mug. Look at that. Oh, look at the swagged out with the fight stuff. So go ahead and grab yourself a mug, grab some swag, support the show. We love y'all. B-Cam, my brother, thank you so much for joining us. And, be real quick, because my man be on Twitter acting a fool. Let him know where to find you.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at MyWashedGospel. Everything spelled correctly. And as you can see here, on Instagram at BCam13.
There it is. I appreciate y'all. We love y'all. See you later. Peace.